You're listening to the Bear in Mind Podcast, episode 129.
A podcast that breaks it down so you can break the cycle for good. Now, your host, Tara Rama, but you can call her T.
Today, we are talking about authority anger. And it is what I would say the next step after you have dealt with your guilt. And it's even better than controlling your anger. And it's not what you think it is. So I want to zoom out a little bit before I get into it, is that there are actually, if I put it into steps that you take, there are what I call 4 steps into permanently stop yelling for good. And the first step I've talked about is releasing the guilt, is making sure that you're not spending a lot of time in an emotion that doesn't give you the insight that you need in order to then control your anger. And once you've done that, once you have been able to move through, I don't mean eliminate the guilt, release it, move through. And what I mean by move through is that you've processed the emotion through your body, you've allowed that movement, emotion, the motion, that movement through your body and out of your body. And the guilt is past, and now you're kind of in this open, a little bit more calm, curious place to look at the anger. And the next thing that I have people do, and what I needed to do with myself, is to actually practice authority anger. And when we think about controlling anger, we think about stopping it and catching it and not yelling and not feeling the emotion. And here, when I talk about authority anger, is to give yourself permission to yell, to be angry, to actually plan on yelling. Giving yourself that permission to yell at your kids, to yell at your partner, to yell at that person that got in front of you in a queue. That is how you're going to get that authority and overpower. And it seems so intuitive, And that is why I said it's not what you think, because we spend so much time resisting. And I talk about this in the episode where I talk about willpower versus willingness, is we spend a lot of time in this kind of restriction or maybe even avoiding mode. And in order to kind of get some authority over something, we need to give it permission in our lives. Because once we kind of allow it and embrace it, we have a better kind of perspective over it. So here's how it plays out specifically when it comes to stop yelling, is that you say it's okay to yell at your kids. It's okay that you're going to do that. It's okay tomorrow that you're going to do that. Now, it seems like a far stretch, and you kind of have to take it in smaller steps. So what I actually recommend is that you give yourself 1 hour each day where it's okay to yell. Give yourself that permission to yell. And I suggest doing it at the hours in the day where you are most likely to yell. And that for some people, it might be in the morning, and a lot of times it's at the end of the day, because that's usually when willpower, when you're using so much resistance to stop yourself from yelling at them like in the morning, the willpower tends to run out. We have had a full day, and at the end of the day, that's when it usually comes about. So 1 hour each day, the same hour, so you don't have to think about it, to give yourself that permission that it is okay. Between the hours of, let's say, 5 in the evening to 6 in the evening, you are authorizing yourself to take that action. Now, when I suggest this to my clients, they're like, no, I'll go out of control. And what I want to say is, do you feel right now that you are in control of it? Because the alternative is to continue how you've been going about it, yelling and maybe not gaining any insight into how to choose a different course of action that you want to take. So you're already doing this thing. You might as well kind of give it this permission and get that authority. And that authority will give you definitely some insight, because when you have authority and you feel like, yes, this is okay, this is permission, your brain starts to open up. It's a very kind of automatic process. When you open up to stuff, it's so much easier for your brain to see things, to gain that insight. When we're so much like, no, 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 and resist, 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 avoid, avoid, restrict, restrict, all of those things, we shut down our brain. Notice even those words, even when I say those words, I feel like I'm closed off. I'm closing off to something. But authority and permission is very open. And by essence, the words mean opening up, that you're okay, to enter a certain room. Only authorized personnel. Have you seen that sign in store shops and stuff on a door? So it's an opening up to something. And that openness is what is going to help give you so much of that insight that I have been talking about into what is causing your anger, some of those beliefs that have come up for you, and those moments where you can see and look back and understand it at a deeper level, where you can say, oh, all of a sudden there'll be an aha moment. And I can promise you, you'll have that aha moment. I've seen it in myself and I've seen it with other people. You will have that kind of aha moment. And it only comes through kind of that openness, that willingness that I'm talking about. And that comes through giving yourself that permission, that authority. I like to use the word authority instead of permission, because that's actually what it's going to do. That authority is going to give you that kind of that empowerment to see what is happening. So give yourself that authority for 1 hour every day, the same hour. Don't go and change the hour. It disorganizes your brain. 1 hour, and let's say 5 in the evening to 6 in the evening. That 1 hour, that's okay. It's okay to yell as many times as you want within that hour. And if you do this for 14 days, and for 14 days you look at that 1 hour and you track it a little bit, write down for 14 days, day 1, write down whether you yelled or not and how you felt, and the situation where you didn't yell or yelled. Describe the situation in 2 sentences. So for example, between 5 and 6, child was super cranky and screaming for a snack. I yelled. I felt frustrated. And so from there, if you do that for 14 days, you will have insight into that anger, into that root cause of that anger, from allowing yourself to yell. And then the next day, looking back after you've moved through the guilt, and look back and write down 2 sentences about if you yell, if you didn't, and describe the situation. And it's just as much insight you'll get into the times that you do yell. Like, it'll be kind of, maybe you'll see that there's a pattern in something that your children do or something that triggers you from this information. I also want you to do it for the times that you don't yell. Why didn't you yell? That's kind of also important information. And that hour, this hour, it'll be kind of curious to see, well, why didn't I yell on this day between the hour that I would normally be so upset? How was I feeling? What was going on? And see kind of that pattern, because both are kind of equally important, because you're trying to become that person that is not yelling. So looking at that information, not just focusing on the times where you quote unquote think you messed up, but looking at the times that you also did okay. You handled the situation. That is also extremely useful information. And when you're able to do this and give yourself that permission, that authority, that's the kind of information that you need to then see kind of that root cause to what's causing the anger, and also see that you are a person that is capable also of managing a situation and not yelling. Both are equally important there. So for 14 days, try it. Give yourself that authority, that permission to yell 1 hour. Pick the hour that is most difficult. You can pick whatever hour you want, actually. Pick 1 hour. Say it's okay to yell. The next day, from a place of curiosity, write down Did you yell? Or if you didn't yell, how you felt in 1 or 2 sentences of the situation. And after 14 days, let me know. How did that authority feel? What insight did you gain? That's all I have for you this week. I'll check back with you next.
Thanks for listening. Listen for a new episode next Tuesday by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Bye for now.